Hi everybody, my name is Chris Bromley. I'm the owner of Unfun Stuff Games, or I was. And I've played a lot of card games competitively now, which is a funny thing to say, because, a couple years ago, I really only played one game and I was just having fun with it. But today I wanted to talk about something that's been, really grinding my gears for the past few weeks. I'm just coming back from an extended vacation to visit some family in Maine. But before that, I went to a Final Fantasy TCG Cup, a Materia Cup is what it's called, in Raleigh, North Carolina. And, I went because I had a friend who lives in North Carolina, and I was really excited to see them, and because I had locals that were going, and, I'd been to another event, and I didn't have fun at it for some things I'm going to outline in this video. But I said, I'll try to give it another shot, and, spoiler alert, I didn't like it, and I'm not going to be traveling to Final Fantasy TCG events ever again, most likely. I'll get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the tournament structure and the way that Square handles their game in the U.S., probably across the world. It's a very small game, right? And that's a thing to talk about too. But the tournament structure, their OP, the software they use, their communication, the way they handle formats and ban announcements are all really weird and bad, okay? The tournament structures tend to be either too short or too long, and they split to numbers that don't make any sense for the number of people that show up, right? I'm used to some other companies going to top eights, and things from, even with 16 people showing up like that, but they'll cut to top 16s with 64 people sometimes, or at 83 people, they'll just have 8 people. It's inconsistent, and it feels like it's up to the discretion of the store that's hosting the event, which is weird, and it should be structured from Square. And I didn't like that. I thought that was really strange, but, whatever. That's one thing. The OP structure is just at the behest of the, or at the discretion of the stores. And as a person who ran OP in my store for a very long time, there's no execution on dealing with other stores that are just selling their OP kits. When my players came to my store, I was always making sure, I had them choose not only this month's promo pack, but also, I'd give them stuff from an allotment of the older stuff that I could get from my distributors. And that allotment, or what I could get from distributors, was often very, very small, especially when there was a desirable OP kit. Recently, Amaterasu and Kukulane were made OP kits, and it was almost impossible for me to get stuff as a smaller store, because bigger stores were just buying them and then selling all of them online because they could make money. And I'm certain that Square is doing nothing about it, right? What you do when somebody does that is you say, hey, those guys get put on a list and they don't get this promo anymore. But, that's not happening. And so it led to stores like mine not getting any of the Kukulanes, not getting many of the Amaterasus. Earlier in the year, Ashes were weird, even though that's a full art already, So the OP itself is really, 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 it's handled poorly, right? Ideally, this is the stuff that needs to go to the players, but it's handled in such a way that it's just being sold on TCG Player after the fact. The software is a joke. I'm not even going to go into it. It's just a joke. I use Challenge for every single event that I've ran in my store. And anytime I ran a quote-unquote bigger event, like our store championships, I simply just ran it on Challenge, and then I sent Square the top 8 people to after the fact in an email. And that's how they handled it with me. Their OP person, really, really sweet, very, very nice, extremely punctual, and, patient, great person. They've got somebody there, in America who's doing a great job, but the communication from the company itself is quite bad. The ban announcements, which are very, very, very few, it's pretty neat how there actually aren't as many bans as there are in some other games I've played, but they're unscheduled, so they don't talk about it at all until something happens, and oftentimes it comes right before events, so people just get hosed, right, if they're preparing for something. And with a game as wide in terms of the card pool as ours is, it's debilitating, right? Because sometimes you'll have to buy cards from set 4 or 5 that were never reprinted, and they could be worth tons of money, and now you got to go figure something else out that's maybe going to use things from other places that are hard to find and get because the game is small and there aren't a lot of singles being opened anymore for those old sets. So the ones that get sold out, they're just gone. You got to find some way to borrow it from someone locally, or to find it in another marketplace. I mean, go on and look at the top 30 cards in the FFTCG. There's only like 32 cards that are worth over $10, and most of them are in extremely high demand. And so it means that decks are hard to make, hard to prepare for, and it favors people who have those big play sets, which is fine, right? These are people that support the game, and they should be good at it. But I think that it's tough when ban announcements come out, and those people that have small collections or are just getting into the game have to then figure out another deck right before an event. The judge program sucks. I've never encountered more untrained judges. They seem very, very nice. And somebody who has judged a lot of events and worked with judges for a lot of events, and given structure for them, I don't think that there's any structure being given out from Square. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about for the company side. I want to talk about the community a little bit. This does not reflect on my locals, who are really, really nice people, and they're the only reasons I continue to play the game. If they weren't, super cool and very nice to me, and making the game fun for me every single week, and competitive and radical, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but they're awesome. And that's why I tried going to these events twice. But going to the events, and I think a lot of it stems from the way that the game is handled from Square. I'll get into that later. But the community sucks. It's cutthroat, it's clicky, people are bullying each other. It's like actually crazy that I see people bullying each other. These are like mostly people over the age of 30 because they like Final Fantasy. They're purposely attempting to mislead each other via content. And in general, there's a vibe of like adversarial competition versus like spirit of the game competition, which is what I would prefer to see. And like, I think it's all rooted in the best of one format. Gotchas are like how you win games a lot of the time in your lead ups to top cuts versus like actual skilled play. If you know what your opponent is playing before you get into a game with them in Swiss or whatever the case might be, you have an immense advantage. And so it leads to these situations where people are like roaming around the room when they finish their rounds or even before rounds, and they're just trying to scout out, oh, who's playing this guy's playing that, this guy's doing this, and supporting their team, which leads to situations where there's an imbalance in terms of who is doing well at these events. You see a lot of the same people doing well at events, and not to say that they're not skilled. These are some of the most talented people I've ever seen in any card game, right? Really, really strong, passionate, good players, but their mentality in terms of how they get there, from what I can see, sucks. It's just bad. And the clicks, like, I mean, I have a community in other card games, and I'm not expecting to be treated with like, any sort of deference or anything like that. But people were like outright rude to me in a lot of my rounds. And if I wasn't playing one of my locals or one of my friends in the community, I'm not having any fun. And it could be, I'm not having fun from rounds 1 through 3. So in rounds 4 through 6, I'm just in a sour mood. So, but I sat there after the event. I thought, is that why it is? And I don't think it is. It's people just trying to rule shark, get what they can out of it. Like at the event that I went to in Rally, my only round where I enjoyed myself was one where I screwed up twice and conceded because I messed up rules text, right? Like I just didn't read a card properly and I screwed it up. But my opponent was a pleasure. Every other round I played, my opponents were like sharking what I was doing. They were blocking with tapped forwards, and I had to like call them out on it. And it's just really strange. I watched on 3 separate occasions over the last year and a half where I've been going to events or hosting events where people from well-known teams were just bullying a judge, and they'd be wearing a shirt and the judge would see the person that they're arguing in favor of wearing the same shirt. And like, if I were the judge, I would just tell the guy to get the fuck out of my face, right? But these judges aren't, they don't have any structure. And so they're getting bullied by quote unquote big names in the format or in the game, and they can't do anything about it. And so when I go to call that guy and be like, hey, treat that guy with respect, he's just trying to do his job for this event, I get yelled at. It's so crazy. I've never seen that ever before in any other card game. And it's the second time I saw it happen, I was like, this is it. And then it happened another time at the same event. And I'm just like, I can't support this game anymore. The like hustle culture around making these top cuts because there's not enough events to go get your your invites to go to Nats and shit like that, which is what people really care about, is nuts. And like, by the way, the prize pool for these events is so minuscule. There's no money in the game, right? There's no, create a cards or like that. The cards you can win, right? They sell for maybe $100 or so to collectors and things like that. There's not a ton of money. There's no reason for people to be playing to this or hustling to this level, right? Especially since, from what I can tell, all of the players come from like professional backgrounds. These are people in their 30s, late 20s who have jobs, careers, families, right? And we're like sacrificing days out of our week to go have fun with a game, and they're taking it so seriously. And it goes back to best of one, right? It all goes back to best of one, and the way that the game is communicated by how the game is communicated by Square, right? In a best of one format for a game like this, where not only is going first an immense advantage, but knowing what your opponent is doing is an immense advantage. You get situations where people are scouting the room, people are clicking together to try to get, to keep information secret because you win, again, because of gotchas versus actual, like, combined skilled play, right? Of course, a lot of skill goes into it. Again, I'm not going to discount that, but people try to get every advantage they can because it's the best of one. And I think if the company moves to a best of three, a lot of this would move away because that information, right? The advantages of having a cutthroat, clicky, bullying community lessens, right? People aren't incentivized to act adversarial towards each other. And, that's about the only thing that would get me back into the game competitively. But yeah, apart from that, man, the cards are beautiful. The game is a ton of fun. I'm still probably going to play locally, but I'm not going to like practice and, get get flights to go to a different town when I show up and like my opponent is making jokes about how they already know what I'm playing. And they're like, oh, you're going to go second, why are we going to even roll the dice? Like that shouldn't occur, and I know that other groups have, like, even my play group, right? They're like, in our group chats, like, oh, this person's playing this thing, this person's playing that thing, and I'm like, why are you guys doing that? It's like, well, everyone else is, and that's what the community is cultivating, right? It's cultivating a group of adversarial bullies, and I hate it. So I'm not going to be playing it anymore. Thanks for watching.